Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a bit about the window motors. I took mine apart because one wasn't working at all and the other one at least didn't push the window up or down, even if the motor was spinning. So when you take them out of the door, this is what they'll look like. This is from the passenger side door. This is the actual motor. I have attached some cables to it. And this is the rod that actually pushes the window up and down. This is just a resting point. And this part is attached to the window slider and pushes the window up and down. And the way it does this is that inside here is a motor. It's basically just a coil and magnets. And it ends with a spiral here that spins this cog inside this sealed compartment. And attached to that coil is a smaller cog that drives on this spring that actually essentially works as a gear inside of this tubing. So what's going to happen now when I attach the negative ground to this motor is that it's going to pull the spring down by this spiral in here. I'm going to show you later. It's going to drive this wheel and pull the spring down by cogs attaching in between these spring laps, if you will, and pull the spring all the way down and basically out of this tube. Okay, I'm going to show you. I'm attaching 12 volts and it's going to end right there. This is the window low position and up here is the window high position. So I'm going to take the other one apart and show you what the inside looks like. And by the way, if I reverse these polarities, it's going to push the window up instead. That's how it works. So this is the driver's side. It was attached like this with a rod going this way. I've attached another bracket because it was broken. That wasn't there to begin with. This one, the spring is running inside this piece of tubing as well and bending up this way. So if you take the motor apart, you do that by loosening two screws, one here and one on the other side there, and this one there. And then you can just take the motor out of its housing. I'm going to do this one-handed. It comes out. So this is what it looks like. It's a metal housing. That's just the electrical attachment. And inside here are the coils and the motor itself. And inside the shell walls are heavy magnets. I'm going to take the whole thing out. Let me just put the phone down for a sec. Okay. So what you have here is just a coil and magnets, and there are inside the housing are heavy magnets. And what you see down there at the bottom is actually an adjustable, tiltable ending where you stick the back of the motor, and you can sure put some grease in there. So it needs to go all the way down there, otherwise it won't fit. There might be some fiddling to get there. And then you have the coil. And I needed to clean this one thoroughly. It was all rusty when I took it apart and wouldn't even move. But I took it to the grinding wheel and basically it's like new. So this part spins inside the housing, and you can see that there's a spiral here that's driving the gears, or actually, well, this spring on the wire that works like a gear and drives it in either direction by spinning like this. Also, this part holds the coils that attach to the motor by springs, and they need to spring, both of them. So you need to grease them up with some WD-40 and make sure they don't stuck, because if they stuck you won't get a connection. And you put them on here and they should spring onto this surface. You can see where the wearings are from its spinning. And then the gear part goes in here. sits like this, and when the motor spins, it drives the outer wheel of this cog, and attached directly to that is a smaller one in here, which attaches to the spring. Now there is one part that is sort of essential. In this end, there is a small screw. It's basically a hole right through here, and if this screw isn't adjusted correctly, then what's going to happen is the motor sits like this, attached to this cog when you apply the power, and it's going to pull forward and might actually pull itself out of this part, so it doesn't have a connection because it doesn't touch these 2 points here. So you might need to do some adjusting on this screw. It's fairly short, and you can see it's a bit in there, and it basically stops the motor from being pulled forward and make it act actually like driving the gears. Also, you can see I have a seal around here. There was a seal to begin with, but it was old and cracked, so I applied some liquid silicone just to prevent moist getting in there. And in this part, you're also good to apply some grease. And then on the lower part of this, when you have your motor with a housing attached like this, it drives the spring into this. It just comes out at the back here. This is just a protection, and it drives the spring back and forth inside like this tubing as well. So it's going to bend upwards, so over here, all the way up here, and push what's basically going to be this point that attaches to the window up and down. And as you can see, this one is broken. It's very common. It's supposed to be stuck in there. I'm going to fix that and also apply this bracket. But it's very common that they're broken in this bend here. And that makes the motor just push the wire and the spring out of the tube and just rattle down in your car sometimes. So this one needs to be properly attached and enforced. I'm going to do some plastic welding here, and I'm also going to have this bracket like this. And if you can see on the one that is still not broken, the spring is going to run here past the gear up into this bend and run up and down in this piece of metal, which is also fairly soft and sometimes doesn't hold the spring completely. That's why the new motors are reinforced in this part, but I still have the old one. So this part needs to be solid and reinforced, and I'm also going to attach like a bracket here to keep it more steady. And the way it then attaches in the car is that you have another bracket like these 3 holes. They attached to mounting points. I guess it's on the other side, I'm sorry. Attached like, sorry, is it that way? No, it's not. Maybe it's the wrong bracket for the wrong motor. So it's going to be on this one. Yeah, like so. You have 3 screws matching up 3 holes, and you attach this bracket to the motor, and then it is attached inside the door. I think that is what I've learned about the window regulators. It's old technology, but when you clean it up and grease it up, it still works. If you want to buy new ones, I think there are about $300 for the pair, and you need to do some drilling and reattaching inside the door. It's not a just swap because the attachment points are different. One thing to mention is that these 2 gears the larger one and the smaller one, the larger driven by the motor and the smaller one driving the spring, they are not centric. They're actually off center inside this seal housing. That's what makes the wheel noise sometimes. I don't know why it is that. It's probably a mistake. It doesn't make sense at all. But that what might make that strange sound, and also make maybe the windows a bit jumpy when they go up and down. But it seems to be in that way from the beginning. So I hope this maybe clears some things out for you. I'm going to try and get this attached and put them into the car and have them drive the windows up and down again.